Right, so call off the search parties at long last because the Nokia 8.3 5G is no longer missing in action. It's right here in my sweaty grasp, in fact, ready to slip on out of its box for your viewing pleasure. And just in the bloody nick of time as well, because this 6.8-inch behemoth is just about to grace the big screen as it's appearing in the latest 007 blockbuster. Not a great day to snuff it, or whatever it's called, where none other than Mr. Bond himself will be rocking the Nokia 8.3 as his daily driver, although presumably his will have some sort of special feature where it sprays acid in people's face. But the good news is you can own the Nokia 8.3 before the film is even out, because it goes on general sale on October the 8th. And of course, way back in March, when Nokia first launched the Nokia 8.3, they announced it would be costing 500 quid, which at the time made it the most affordable 5G smartphone that you could buy. But of course, fast forward half a year, and now you've got the likes of the OnePlus Nord, the Realme X50 5G, the Moto G 5G Plus, a lot of 5G smartphones costing between £300 and £400. So as we barrel our way towards the arse end of 2020, is the Nokia 8.3 5G still a tempting prospect? Well, I'm going to whip it on out of that box, take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software, everything you need to know ahead of my in-depth review. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! I honestly can't believe it's been half a year since this thing was actually originally launched. What a crazy 6 months. But anyhow, what you get in the box is a PokePin device. You also get a manual, several manuals. Love it. You got a quick start guide in basically every language ever invented. I think there's even one here in Sanskrit. You've also got your Type-C USB cable. You've got your 3-pin pop-up plug. And HMD has kindly bundled some hard shell earphones as well, although they look like they'd be best used just as a spare pair when you're absolutely desperate. And that right there is everything inside the box apart from the actual Nokia 8.3 5G itself, of course. Sadly, there's no condom case bundled in there, which is a shame because quite a lot of phones these days, they come with just a basic protector to help keep it from getting all scratched up. And there's no pre-installed screen protector here on the 8.3 5G either, although you do at least get a nice bit of Gorilla Glass on that back end, so hopefully that'll prove rather rugged. Now I gotta say, first impressions of the aesthetics here on the Nokia 8.3 5G is it's a nice looking device. You've got a layer of glass on back and front as well, and then an aluminium frame sandwiched in the middle with that lovely glossy finish just to match the rest of the phone. And you've got a lovely deep blue coloration as well with that lovely striation effect as the light catches the back end, like so. Apparently it's all inspired by the polar lights. I just know it looks nice, that's all. And sadly, this is the only color option available for the Nokia 8.3 right now, but hopefully HMD will launch a couple more in the coming months. I really like that sort of desert sand finish on the Nokia 5.3, for instance. I'll tell you what though, this is a 6.8-inch smartphone, so it's one of the biggest blowers around even in 2020. So here's hoping that Mr. Bond has got some proper big pockets in his tailor-made suit. And at 220 grams, it's a bit of a hefty bugger too. The actual power button on the Nokia 8.3 is a edge-mounted fingerprint sensor, so let's just give that a little push in, and there we go, we've got some juice in the tank already. Gonna get my SIM card stuffed inside this as well in order to do a full proper review. And as you can see here, you've got dual SIM support, but if you do want to slap in a microSD memory card as well, that will have to go in the second SIM slot, sadly. And the Nokia 8.3 5G supports microSD memory cards of up to 400 gigs in size to expand the 64 or 128 gigs of onboard storage. Still gives me goosebumps. Alrighty, so the Nokia 8.3 5G is all set up and ready for action. And let's start our full-on tour with a bit of security. And as I mentioned before, you've got an edge-mounted fingerprint sensor here on the side of the Nokia. When the phone's hibernating, just tap your digits to that scanner and basically you're straight into your desktops, as you can see there. So far it seems reasonably quick and pretty reliable. Rather surprisingly, but also awesomely, Nokia, or rather HMD Global, has left in the fingerprint sensor gesture support as well. So if you drag your finger down that scanner, as you can see, it pulls down the notifications bar. The sensitivity is a little bit iffy though, so it looks like you have to drag sort of quite slowly for it to actually work, and even then it's only some of the time it'll do it. So you know what, you're probably better off just sort of dragging your finger down the screen like so. And to back that up, you've also got a good bit of face recognition as well if you can't use the sensor for whatever reason. As you can see, again, reasonably nippy. Now, as with all Nokia branded smartphones, you get a lovely stock version of Android on here, the latest version of Android, Android 10. And the great news as well about Nokia smartphones is you're guaranteed 2 years of OS upgrades. So this will get upgraded to Android 11 later in this year, and then Android 12 next year. And you also guarantee 3 full years of security updates as well on a monthly basis. Definitely great news if you're in it for the long haul. And like a lot of stock Android smartphones as well, from the likes of Motorola and stuff recently, you get a dedicated Google Assistant button housed here on the left edge. So just a quick tap of that and the Google Assistant will pop right up to help you sort your shit out. Of course, why you would ever need a dedicated Google Assistant button, I'm not really sure, because at any point you can simply say and up they pop. And of course, you've got all those great Google services on here, the likes of Google Pay, so you can get your contactless payments on the go. Good old Duo and all that, of course, if anyone actually ever uses Duo. Now, if you're a media fan, you're bound to fall in love with this 6.81-inch pure display panel. It is IPS tech, sadly, not OLED like many rivals such as the OnePlus Nord offer for a lot less cash, but all the same, it's nice and bright and those colours look pretty punchy. It's a full HD plus resolution, 2400 by 1080, and even despite the gargantuan size of this display, if you smush your face up nice and close while you're watching a video or whatever, the image still looks nice and crisp. The Nokia 8.3 display has what HMD Global terms always on HDR, so basically you can display apparently up to 1 billion different shades of colour, and as you can see there, you've got smart SDR to HDR upscaling as well, so it can convert those lesser quality video files and pictures and everything, just boost the colours and the contrast to hopefully make it look better. As for the speaker tech, well, sadly you do not get a stereo speaker setup here on the Nokia 8.3 5G, it's just a single downwards firing speaker right here on the bottom end. Let's just bump it up to full volume and see what we got.
Right now in 2020, for a price that won't have you eating beans on toast for every meal for the next decade or so.
So it may be working all on its lonesome, but that bottom firing speaker is actually pretty powerful. In fact, if you stick your hand over it, it'll get quite the tickle, that's for sure. Clarity's not too bad as well, but it is a shame that you do not get a proper stereo speaker setup, especially as this is a £500 smartphone. But at least you do, get a proper 3.5mm headphone jack down here at the bottom. When it comes to the performance, the Nokia 8.3 5G certainly should not be a slouch. It's got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G chipset packed inside, which we also found in the likes of the OnePlus Nord, the Realme X50 5G. It's a very capable platform indeed. As you can see, strong benchmarking scores here on Geekbench, and you'll easily be able to blast through the latest games like Call of Duty Mobile, stuff like that, even on those high detail settings, especially as you've got either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM stuffed inside this thing, depending on how much money you throw at HMD. Of course, will it be able to handle gaming over, a good hour or two long session? Well, I'll be testing that out for my full Nokia 8.3 5G review. As for the battery life, well, you've got a 4500 milliamp cells stuffed here inside the Nokia 8.3 5G, so pretty comparable to a lot of other mid-range smartphones, and hopefully should easily keep you going through a full, very intensive day, and maybe even through 2 days if you're a bit more careful with it. Now let's finish up with a quick squint at the Nokia 8.3 5G's very funky quad lens circular rear camera setup. Now your primary lens is a 64 megapixel effort, although it uses quad pixel tech, which basically means it shoots in 16 megapixel resolution by default, and it uses 4-in-1 pixel bin tech in order just to brighten up the images when needed. Now as you can see, it's quite a complicated UI here on the Nokia 8.3 5G, lots of different features and toggles to play around with. You've got an AI mode which is activated by default, so as you can see here, it's recommending shooting a portrait mode style shot, but you can dismiss that just with a quick tap. At any point you can swap from that 64 megapixel primary lens to the 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens instead, and as you can see, it actually spreads the view across the controls as well, gives you a nice broad view of whatever subject you're trying to shoot. And this area is also where you can swap to the 2 megapixel macro mode as well if you want an extreme close-up of your subject. Although to be honest, an extreme close-up of Veronica here might be enough to give most people nightmares. No offense, Veronica. One of the best things about the Nokia 8.3 5G's camera tech is you get a buttload of bonus features, including the likes of the Pro mode as well, which just allows you to fiddle around with all kinds of stuff like the ISO levels, the white balance, to get a very specific kind of shot. It's nice and easy to use. All you've got to do is play around with these toggles, and you can actually see the effects right there on the screen as well. And at any point you can undo all your fiddlings with a quick swipe up of the shutter button like so. And in the Pro mode as well, you can also shoot in full RAW format, handy if you want to edit some pics on the fly, or alternatively you can shoot at that maximum 64 megapixel resolution as well. And meanwhile, the final lens in that rear end setup is your bog standard 2 megapixel depth sensor, so that'll just help to keep your subject sharp and help to blur out the background, just to help your subject really stand out and look proper lush. And if you tap this little button down here, you've got a couple of extra bonus modes on top of the other stuff as well, including a dedicated night mode, so this can just take several different shots at different exposure levels, fix them all together, then hopefully you get a nice brighter result in those low light situations. And as you can hopefully see there, with the night mode enabled, you get much brighter background action here in this test shot compared with just shooting with a standard auto photo mode. And if you fancy yourself more as a budding cinematographer, well, the Nokia 8.3 5G definitely has you covered there as well, because even the standard video mode has an absolute shit ton of different bonus features to play around with. So as usual, of course, you can shoot it up to 4K resolution, although sadly at 30 frames per second, not full 60. But if you're trying to shoot shoot a scene with some tricky lights, very strong contrast. The good news is that even at that Ultra HD resolution, you've got access to the HDR feature. Your home movie should sound brilliant as well, with a good bit of Ozo surround sound audio capture as well. So everything in front of, behind, to the sides of the camera will be picked up, and when you're listening on a pair of headphones or something like that, you'll really get that sort of surround sound effect. And you've also got a handy little wind noise reduction filter here on the side as well. Definitely good news if things get a little bit blustery. And as you can see, you can once again jump into that ultra wide angle camera, and apparently it should be really good at shooting video even in quite low light situations, or so HMD claims. I'll be testing that out for my full camera review. You could also shoot video with that macro lens as well, although that's probably going to look quite cack. You've got the action cam setting as well if you're going to be running around, jumping, doing whatever and shooting at the same time. And then finally, of course, you've got HMD's fantastic dual lens setup, so you can shoot with both the front and the back cameras once if you want to get your gorgeous mug slapped in there too. But that's not all, because if you really fancy yourself as the next Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan or whatever, you've also got the special cinema mode as well. And with this mode, you'll shoot video at that stretched cinematic style 21:9 aspect ratio, similar to what you'll get on the likes of the Cinema Pro feature using Sony's Xperia 1 Mark II. With this mode, it always shoots at 24 frames per second, but you've got a choice of 2K or 4K resolution, all the way up to, as you can see, a mighty 60 megabits per second. So that'll fill up your storage pretty fast. But anyway, I'll be testing that out in full in my Nokia 8.3 5G camera review, so stay tuned for that. And then if you flip around to the front, you've got a 24 megapixel selfie cam as well, and that certainly picks you up in far too much detail. Ugh. And that comes complete with the usual portrait mode smart as well. And can you get the pro mode on the go? No, you can't. That's a shame. So that right there in a nutshell is the Nokia 8.3 5G. Quick tour of the specs, the features, the camera tech, all that good stuff. The question is, of course, though, are you still excited about this bad boy, despite the fact it's been 6 full months since it was actually first revealed? And obviously quite a lot has happened in the interim, certainly in the realm of mid-range smartphones. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And by the time you watch this, I will have been using this as my full-time smartphone for about a week or so. So hopefully I'll be able to get you my full review in the next sort of 24 hours. And if you've enjoyed this video, you want to see more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers everyone, love you.